Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Juliet Singler, and I'm talking to you today about music appreciation. We're going to focus on some of the composers that came after the Romantic era in this kind of postmodern and modern era that we still seem to be in today. So we have quite a large group of composers, but they feature a lot of American composers, and I think that's going to be interesting for you. We start off with Debussy, Claude Debussy, who was a French composer. And his music is a kind of a reaction to what was happening in German music composition. There were a lot of great composers we just finished listening to, like Beethoven and Wagner, who had taken the musical elements of Western music and stretched them just about as far as they could stretch, so that it was almost at this point at the breaking point. And they said to themselves, really, everything has been said that could be said with these basic building blocks of music that we've created for Western music. Can we do something else? And so Debussy's music is unique because it just kind of floats there. It doesn't seem to have like this charging force to a great climactic event and then a resolution at the end. It just kind of exists. It floats there. And it's very much connected with artistic impressionism of the era. So you're going to get to look at some impressionistic painters as well. And remember, impressionism is the artist's experience of what's going on. It's not realistic. We had no use for realism anymore in art because photography had come around in the 1800s and had already made everything as real as it could possibly be. So at that point, then, painters and composers said, what matters is what I think of the experience or the subject. We continue then with Stravinsky, a great Russian composer, and he was heavily influenced by Schoenberg, a composer that we'll talk about a little bit later in time. But Stravinsky also was trying to find a new musical vocabulary, and you're going to really enjoy reading about the work, The Rite of Spring, that Stravinsky wrote. It was a ballet that he composed, and it totally turned music upside down. In fact, there was a riot when it was first performed. So I want you to read about that and tell me what unique things happened in his music that changed the course of history. 3 different items, if you will. Then we talk about Schoenberg, Arnold Schoenberg, who was a German composer. And really, I think when you listen to his music, you have to listen to it in the framework of knowing the events that were going on in the world. Schoenberg was Jewish, and he was composing in an environment that was extremely hostile in the early 1900s towards Jews, and then it turned into a world war, and he actually became an expatriate because of that and came to the US. You can still find his collected works at the library that holds his name, the Schoenberg Library at UCLA in Southern California. So you're going to be interested to hear what he does. He totally breaks out of the box and creates a musical language that has it seems to have no logical organization, no traditional structuring of 8 notes in a scale or 12 notes in a scale, kind of randomly uses notes. Actually, there is quite a lot of logical organization in atonality. Then we talk about a Hungarian composer, Béla Bartok, and you're going to listen to his Game of Pairs. And there's something neat to listen for in that work that I want you to think about. Then we have our group of American composers. We have William Grant Still, and there is a question to answer about his beautiful symphony because he was an African-American composer who used some of the music that was familiar to him and part of our American culture. Remember last time we talked about Dvorak, who came to the US as kind of a composer in residence to help us discover our national voice? Well, William Grant Still was using the elements of this national voice, using spirituals, the blues, jazz music, as were other composers of this era to try and kind of discover our national voice. That's that movement called nationalism that we talked about last lesson. The next composer was doing the same thing. Aaron Copeland. I love Copeland because you really hear the American spirit come through in his music, and it translated from when he was writing into film music of the time. So when you listen to westerns that were composed for in the, say, the 1930s through the 50s, a lot of what you hear is this musical vocabulary that Aaron Copeland originated, that describes the American spirit. Then we look at another American composer, John Cage, and you're going to be amazed by the work that you'll listen to called 4 minutes 33 seconds. I'll let you listen to it and uh, draw your own conclusions about it, but he too was looking for a different way to talk about music and to speak about the human experience through music. And then we listen to a beautiful work by John Adams, another American composer that is part of a movement that we call minimalism. So John Adams and many other composers who are still writing in this vein were using very limited musical materials to describe the human experience. Finally, we end with a song by Eric Whitacre, who's a very popular choral composer. And you're going to be amazed by this because it was written during COVID, and it uses technology to unify singers in a virtual environment. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to think about that. All right, good luck with this week's assignment, and please let me know how I can help you.